Okay, guys, we are embarking on a new journey here with our Vego beds. We ordered the new Vego trellises to go up on the 9.5 foot by 2.5 foot wide beds. We did learn something. The first ones that we ordered, we did not realize they make a whole bunch of different trellises for different beds. So the first batch we got is actually going to fit a bunch of other Vego beds we got way over yonder, and we did not realize that they made different ones. So we reordered and we got this new trellis system here. Now, we originally had cattle panels in this. If you remember from watching us, we had English peas here with a cattle panel. And I'm okay with cattle panels, but if they make a product that's made for the bed, I told Wanda, I said, let's just get what goes with the bed because it'll be more aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't change anything, but it's more aesthetically pleasing to look at in here. So we ordered 4. We want to literally do one on this side of the high tunnel, on that side of the high tunnel over there, and then over here on this one, and then here where the eggplants is at. Now our thought train on this is, if the heat continues to do what they're saying it's going to do, which is could get up to 135 to 140 degrees this year. If it does do that in the high tunnel, even though we have a 40% shade cloth up above it here, our thinking is we have another 40-foot shade cloth that was bought for another high tunnel we have over at Deepsouth that was never taken out of the box, is that if we put those 2 arches on this side of the trellises, and then we come over here and we put 2 right here, we can come in here and drape that second shade cloth over the top of all of this in here and still give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beds that we can grow in underneath this summer, should it get to be too hot for us to be able to grow in anything on the outside out here. Now, with that in mind, that is why we're putting sweet potatoes in here, because sweet potatoes can take the excessive heat. They love heat. And our thinking is sweet potatoes are very invasive with the vines if they're in heavy nutritional soil. And you look down here, now these Vego beds, I amended these whenever we bought them based off of soil samples. And we were using these sprinkler systems here almost daily, 2 times a day. And I just kept noticing the plants were not doing as well as they should have been doing. So I came in here and I looked, I said, well, when I was looking at this, I said, the ground is just too dry. But when I started doing this, you see this right here? I want you to look at something right here. You see that right there? That's worms. They're all right under the surface of this soil, which we thought was dry up here. It is not dry. What's going on, if I rake my hands down in here, guys, I mean, you just look right here. When I move my hands out of the way, look at this. There's a worm right there. There's a worm right there. Here's one right here. One right there. These beds are full of worms. With them being right at the surface, what that tells me is we've been overwatering the beds. The bottom of the beds are actually saturated. Now we have cardboard and all in the bottom of them, and they're evidently too wet in the bottom. So I've held off on watering now. It's been 3 days since I've turned the water on in here on these Vego beds and this high tunnel with the shade cloth, and it's been hot, and still we have plenty of moisture. And the worms is our composting. We're ending up with worm castings in this soil everywhere because they're eating it up. The soil that we actually purchased had lots and lots of organic matter in it, like pieces of wood and, you know, just bark and all that kind of stuff was all in it when I bought it. I didn't know how it was going to go over, and I do have some concerns. I will tell you this, I do have some concerns about having sweet potatoes in it, because sweet potatoes are susceptible to a creature called wood lice. Now, I'm not 100% sure that wood lice would be in this bed, but I'm also not 100% sure that they would not be in this bed. So this year, will be a learning experience for us on the having the sweet potatoes in the Vego beds with the type of material that we purchased to go in these beds, as to whether or not the potatoes will end up with wood lice, leaving little riddled holes all through them on the outside. You'll notice it on the outside of the potato. The skin won't be smooth. You'll see these little channels and little tunnels across the outside skin of the potatoes. What we are actually doing is, because the summer's coming on, our growing season's almost over here in the Deep South. And I know that sounds crazy because a lot of y'all haven't even planted yet. But we go through a lot of excessive heat down here. And when I say the growing season's over, what I mean is it's over for plants that cannot take the extreme heat. Sweet potatoes is one of the plants that can take the extreme heat. And we are actively moving sweet potatoes in all of our raised beds. As things come out, we are putting the sweet potatoes back in place of them and trying to see if we can grow a crop of potatoes in here that's very low maintenance, because sweet potatoes are very low maintenance. The soil has already been analyzed, it's already been amended, it's in excellent condition, and we're going to wait now and see, once we get all these trellis systems up in here, how the sweet potatoes are going to do, because I'm going to probably train them to run up these trellis systems in here. And what that will do is, as the sun sets in the evenings and as it rises in the mornings, hopefully this wall of sweet potatoes here will block the sun from actually being too invasive in here and too hot on anything we have in here. And we're trying, well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create some microclimates inside the high tunnel. That alone is our biggest goal right now because of what's going on with our climate. And so all I can say is, hey, if you're interested in what we're doing, continue to follow us here at Pecan Grove. Subscribe to us, hit the notification, and if you're interested in these, we're going to have a link in the description down below. And just be aware now, there's different ones for different Vego beds. Make sure, if you have Vego beds, that you order the right ones for the right beds, and don't do what we did. And then let me just pass on a little bit more information to you. These here, they bolt all the way to the second bolt from the bottom. And with this tomato plant growing here, I had to dig down from the side over here and all the way to the bottom of this bed, all the way around it. I had to dig down where the bolts were at so I could take the old bolts out and put the new bolts in it that comes with this kit. Now, it was a challenge, but can it be done? Yes, it can be done. But let me tell you, it's a whole lot simpler if you go ahead and get this and get it in your bed before you fill it up with soil. Because, I mean, my hands are just from digging down in that dirt, you know. And plus, I'm afraid I'm hurting my worms because there's so many worms in this soil. And then I will also mention that with Vego, when you take out the bolts that's in the bed and you put the new bolts in it, you're going to have your old bolts left over like this right here. Now, what Wanda and I have talked about is we're going to take a plastic tote and we're going to create a Vego supply tote, because we're going to have these left over out of every one of these Vego beds that we do. And this will give us extras for the Vego beds if we ever have problems. Plus, we'll have the tools. And in every one of these packs that they send extras in each pack, plus the little caps that you put on everything. They send extra ones of those. And that way, if your caps break or something happens to them, you've got extras. And I encourage people, don't throw this stuff away. Create you a plastic tote and on it, label it as Vego parts. And I guarantee you, at some point, when you're putting up all these structures around here, if you go this route, you will eventually need them down the road. I mean, I'm not a pack rat, but I also believe in not throwing stuff away when I'm actually working, because, you know, nobody's perfect. You might get a system that's missing one bolt, or missing a nut, or missing the rubber plugs that go in them. And if you are, you can go back to your kit and you'll have them for your future use. Or if you decide you want to mix and match these things, you can actually do that. So follow us and watch what happens with these sweet potatoes on this trellis system here. Well guys, it's the next day. It took a lot longer to put up the Vego trellises than I anticipated, having to dig into all this soil to get my arms down in there to put the bolts in it. Lesson learned, do it ahead of time. But we have them all up. We're watering all of our beds this morning, have our irrigation system going. I think it's going to work out pretty good. We've got this one here. This was probably my most challenging one to keep from damaging the watermelons and the peppers and the tomatoes and everything. Trying to dig into that soil because there was roots everywhere and try not to disturb the roots and destroy them. But I think I got it. Everything looks, we got pollinators all in here. We don't have to worry about that. Everything's pollinating really well. We have all of our systems going here. I mean, it's looking really good, guys. This is the one I was the most happy about right here. The eggplants had fell all out into the floor everywhere because of all the eggplants that's on them. And this trellis system now is holding up the eggplants. And now we have something to tie them back to. If they decide they want to go this way, we can pull them back that way and tie them. That was our main goal, was to get this thing where we could handle all these plants in here. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I've never had plants grow like this. It's like they're on steroids or something other. I mean, the peppers, just look at the pepper. Well guys, Miss Wanda went through late yesterday evening and she tied all the peppers back up. We were kind of getting concerned because the wind was getting up pretty high and the tops of them were starting to swish back and forth a lot. So one of our next projects will be to get the Vego trellises on these beds here so that we have something to tie everything to. Right now we just got sticks drove down in here.
We need taller sticks.
We really need taller sticks. I mean, you look at these peppers. I mean, look at this. I mean, these things are above me. I know they're in a bed, but still, if I was up on the bed, they would still be over 5 feet high if I was standing in the bed. And that's just crazy. But we've amended the soil according to the soil test, and this is what we're getting. I mean, see how dark green the leaves are on these things? They are so, they just look so rich. I mean, the peppers are all hanging in here. Guys, I'm totally excited. These leaves are just like I don't think I've ever had leaves this dark. Now these are the banana peppers. Their leaves are not going to be as dark as the others because they have kind of a little bit of a yellowish tint to them.
But they're not as yellow as they were.
No, they're not as yellow as they were. That's correct.
They were real yellow looking. And you got
I see just
right
when you
here
see
and here.
When you see that little bit of droppings right here, that's usually an early sign that there's a worm somewhere. The problem is he's so tiny right now. Is finding his little tail. He'll show up here. Miss Wanda's moved all these leaves around, tying these up yesterday. He could be anywhere now. But this thing, they got banana peppers all in there loading up on it. Them things, you take them with some cream cheese, sliced in half in there and put them in the oven. Man, them things make you, expression goes, make you slap your grandma. Now, this is where we're at now. We have actually 2 of these in here. We've got the shallow ones and we've got the deep ones here. We've had these for a long time. They're still in the old cardboard box, and these are GreenStalks. Now, Ms. Wanda has several of these over at Deepsouth Homestead. And we're probably going to be moving them over here also. What we're trying to determine right now is, like in the corner of the high tunnel, maybe put 2 of them right here side by side stacked up on top of some platforms so we can keep, you know, the ants and stuff from messing with them. And just trying to see inside this high tone, what can we raise in the green stalks here, because this is a perfect location for raising stuff in a green stalk. Wanda's been very successful over at Deepsouth, you know, for raising stuff in it. So now that we're transferring everything over to Pecan Grove here, we felt like it's a prime time to just go get all this stuff, start loading it up here, and just making it happen here. And guys, the wind is blowing. You can see the high tone here, how it's, the leaves and everything sitting there floating around. That is perfect. This morning is perfect. So I got a lot to do today. Got to get out of here. May run back to Deepsouth and get the rest of the green stalks. That may be what I do, so I can get it over with. Thank you guys from Pecan Grove.